Hello and welcome. I'm Mariana Trapnell, President and Chief Excel Geek here at Accelerations. As we talked about in the last video, macros are a great way to speed up those tedious tasks that you do over and over again, leaving you with much more time available to do the actual analysis you're interested in. Now, if you didn't catch last week's video, I'd suggest that you stop this one and go back and watch that one instead, because in there we talk about how to record your own macro. Then, once you've done that, you can come back to this video and we'll still be here waiting for you. Okay, so the next step in the process is to actually assign your macro to a single button. Otherwise, as we saw in the last video, it can take about 4 clicks to run the macro, which is better than nothing, but if your original steps only take 2 or 3 clicks, you're not really doing yourself any favors by running the macro, right? All right, so wouldn't it be better if there was just one button front and center that you could click on that would run your macro and perform those steps right away? You guessed it, there is. So let's take a look. All right, so the main objective here is, as I like to call it, reducing the click count. So we want to find a way to run our macro without a whole bunch of clicks to it. So let's just take a look at the macro we recorded last week. So one of the ones we recorded was red and bold. So if I want to do that just through normal means, I go red and bold. Well, that's not too bad, it's just 2 clicks. If I want to run it through my macro, I have to go View, Macros, View Macros, red, bold, and run. So that's about 5 clicks. So yeah, probably just easier to hit red and bold. On the other hand, let's look at my header. So if I highlight all these cells and go Home, Underline, Bold, Italic, increase my font size to 14, there we go, that's a pretty decent header. On the flip side, if I run my macro, I go View, Macros, View Macros, that's selected already, hit Run. All right, so not too bad, that one came out about even. But let's see if we could find a quicker way to do this. That would be the QAT Quick Access Toolbar. So right now, I've got mine sitting below the ribbon, but most likely, yours will be sitting above the ribbon up here, and probably even more likely it'll just have Save, Undo, and Redo on it. It won't have any of these extra buttons, and it certainly won't have all these buttons that I've got on my normal Quick Access Toolbar. I'm pretty sure there's a kitchen sink in here somewhere. All right, so how do we get our macro onto this Quick Access Toolbar? Let's see. So basically, what you need to do is you go up to your Quick Access Toolbar and you use the little drop down to customize. Then you go More Commands. Once you're in this screen, you go Choose Commands From and choose Macros. All right, so I'm just going to do a bit of cleanup here. All right, so this is probably what yours is going to look like when you come in. As long as your personal workbook is open, which it usually will be once you've recorded any macro in Excel, it'll generally open automatically for you. You can then select it. So it's in alphabetical order, and I'm going to hit Add to add my red, bold, and then I'm going to add my header. Now, that's a bit long-winded for a button name, so I'm going to hit Modify. And I'm just going to get rid of the personal part in front here and just call it red bold. And I think that's a pretty good button to use for red bold. Then my header, I'm going to modify, get rid of the front part again. And I think probably this is a good button to just remind me of what it is without having to hover over it. So I'm going to hit OK. And now you can see those 2 buttons up here in the Quick Access Toolbar. And when I hover over it, you can see it shows my header and red, bold as well, in case I've forgotten what the little pictures mean. Okay, so look, what does that let us do? Okay, red bold. So if I click there, hit red bold, wow, instant. Likewise, if I go over here and click that button, instant, way better. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. Now the one last piece, I mentioned we were actually going to talk about how to use the QAT for some existing ribbon buttons as well. So as I mentioned, I've got the kitchen sink in my ribbon button, or quick access toolbar, and how I achieved that was actually really simple. I just built it up over time, and all you have to do to add a button up here is you go to the equivalent button on the ribbon, and I highly recommend adding comma actually. So right click on it and go add to quick access toolbar. And then because comma usually puts in 2 decimals, I also like to add the decrease decimal button in case I don't want 2 decimals. So again, add to quick access toolbar. So now when I've got some numbers, I can just highlight them and say I'm over here on my view tab. Without even going back to my home ribbon, I can actually just hit comma and then decrease decimal, and I've got some nice rounded numbers here that have comma format built in. Okay, likewise, another really good one to add is filter. So if I wanted to filter this range, I might have to go home and then filter and then filter. But if I add that one to my quick access toolbar by right clicking on it, I can then highlight my range, hit the filter button, and it's turned on. Or I hit it again and it's turned off. Nice and easy. Another thing you might want to add is related to that, the clear button. So if I right click on that, even though it's not active, I can still right click on it and add it. And then the next time I come along and filter for that account, I can be anywhere here, hit my clear button, and I'm back where I was. So that's a good one to put up on your toolbar as well. One final note on that, the other thing I like to do is use my drop down again and go show below the ribbon, because that way, as I'm on my way up to the ribbon to switch to a different tab to do my filtering, for instance, it kind of reminds me, oh yeah, I'm passing my filter button right here. Let's use that instead. And that way it just helps build the habit of speed when you're using your buttons. All right, so that's it for today. And I would love it if you would leave a comment below just to let me know whether you already use the QAT, and if so, what your favorite buttons are on it. And if this was your first intro to it, what button are you going to put on it today? And is that going to be a macro, or is it even just going to be some of these ribbon buttons? Those are kind of handy to have around too. All right, that's it. And thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next week.